Although the Olmec culture has been historically established as having flourished within the now dense jungles of Guatemala, there also exists many pre-Olmec ruins and artifacts that are still baffling researchers and historians alike. The Great Head of Guatemala being one of the most controversial of all. This enormous stone face indicates that not only the Olmecs, or indeed native Hispanic race, once called Guatemala home. A gigantic, masterfully carved stone head, with a face of fine features, thin lips, and large nose, once engulfed in millennia of vegetation, directed to the sky as if in eternal prayer. The discovery, unsurprisingly, attracted a lot of attention, yet just as predictably, due to its unquestioned controversy, quickly slipped into the pages of forgotten history. The initial discovery first emerged when Dr. Oscar Rafael Padilla Lara, a doctor of philosophy, lawyer, and notary, received a photograph of the head in 1987. Along with a vague description, it stated that the photograph was taken in the 1950s by the owner of the land, and that it was located, quote, somewhere in the jungles of Guatemala. The site was later established to have been 10 kilometers from a small village in the south of Guatemala. However, when Dr. Padilla managed to travel to the site, a short while after the discovery had been widely circulated throughout the country, he found that the site, along with the Caucasian-featured stone face, had been obliterated. He stated, quote, "It was destroyed by revolutionaries about 10 years ago. We had located the statue too late. It was used as target practice by rebels. This totally disfigured it, sort of like the way the Sphinx in Egypt had its nose shot off by the Turks, only worse. The eyes, nose, and mouth had been completely destroyed." End quote. Padilla was able to measure its height as having been between 4 and 6 meters. Although, predictably, the stone head had been destroyed due to its controversial nature, it may still shine light on who was flourishing in the jungles, far before any Olmec had ever stepped foot there. Additionally, and fortunately, the stone head is not the only pre-Olmec statue ever found. Named the Fat Boys, these other artifacts are another set of statues that, although not as racially controversial, possess characteristics even more so for the scientific world. These statues, retrieved and displayed, were discovered many years later to actually contain magnetic elements, which, along with a number of anthropomorphic artworks from the same suspected civilization, have magnetic characteristics positioned at specific locations. On the Fat Boys, it is found at the navel, although the animal statues seemingly contain them around the faces. So, the question is obvious. How did an ancient culture located so far back within history not only know about this magnetism, but manage to create such artworks? Why did they create them? Were they attempting to tell their distant ancestors something? Regardless of the controversy surrounding their creators, they are undoubtedly highly compelling.
The slow destruction of the Amazonian rainforest, the felling of thousands of square miles of trees, has not only shown us the result of man's insatiable and sometimes irresponsible hunger for resources, but also, ironically, what may become one of the most important historical discoveries of the modern age. Evidence of a very ancient and as yet unknown civilization has become apparent upon the now barren landscape. A civilization which would have dwarfed the Egyptian and Roman empires combined. As a result of the drastic deforestation that has taken place over the last few decades to make way for farming land, huge swaths of land features have become visible from the air. Not only are these now grassy areas showing evidence of numerous, enormous, complex ancient cities, but also the remnants of what could be classified as straight Roman roads connecting these massive sites. According to a new report published in the Journal of Antiquity, the archaeologist Martí Pärssinen along with numerous other scientists, have documented more than 210 geometric structures. The city spreads out over an area of more than 250 square kilometers, reaching from northern Bolivia to the state of Amazonia in Brazil. Although the early explorers had heard legends from the Indians regarding a fabulously rich Amazonian civilization, which they named El Dorado, the countless searches for this city of gold have all invariably ended in failure. No evidence of a vast ancient civilization within Amazonia had ever materialized, that is, until now. Most scholars subsequently concluded that El Dorado was no more than a story. Indeed, scientists believe that the merciless conditions in the jungle were simply too inhospitable to support a large population. The most influential archaeologist of the 20th century, Betty Meggers, famously dubbed the region as Counterfeit Paradise. In the early 1900s, the British explorer Percy Harrison Fawcett, while exploring and mapping much of the same area where the ruins were recently discovered, reported finding large earth mounds filled with ancient and brittle pottery. And buried under the jungle floor, he claimed he had also found traces of causeways and roadways. Based on this and other evidence, he insisted that the Amazon once contained large populations, and at least one, if not more, advanced civilizations. Despite being dismissed and ridiculed as a crank, he set off in 1925 to find the place, which he christened the City of Z. Shortly thereafter, his entire party, including his 21-year-old son Jack, vanished within the jungle and they were never seen of again. Because of the symmetrical shape of many of these mounds now seen from the air and the way they slant to the north, a possibility that they may have had an astronomical purpose had begun to be seriously looked at. We could quite possibly be on the verge of discovering another highly advanced civilization which once lived here on Earth. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, take care. Recently, an incredible story has been released by National Geographic. An enormous ancient metropolis found hidden beneath deep forest within Guatemala. Discovered using a combination of LiDAR mapping, drones, physical exploration, and other forms of radar. This lost city's disclosure, however, if given the publicity and understanding it deserves, brings with it some drastic, yet by some long-awaited realizations within academia, the archaeological community, the educational curriculum, and many authors and their so-called accurate literature. For this city's population has been estimated to have not just been thousands, but actually went far into the millions. A civilization, or rather, incredibly ancient and so far complex city, would have rivaled even the most heavily populated areas of Earth even to this day. Such incredible numbers of people at such a time within our ancient history, successfully co-inhabiting and surviving in such a space, demands incredible complexity and technological ability. A drastic relook at our currently taught understandings of history is undoubtedly required. Amazingly, this pre-Columbian civilization, hidden for untold millennia beneath the dense rainforests of Guatemala, is estimated by some to have peaked a mere 1,200 years ago. Yet it is entirely possible, and much more likely, that this lost city is far older than this. An advanced, complex city landscape, which the most recent data suggests may have supported a population of up to 10 to 15 million people. This realized from new drone footage of the city, which spans an astonishing 2,100 square kilometers in size. The advanced infrastructure, which included advanced agricultural terracing, with elevated trade routes to prevent flooding in rainy seasons, not only has experts finally rethinking the dimensions and complexity of past empires, but it may be the linchpin needed in future realizations of a past civilization, a civilization which was far more enlightened than our current society. As such, upon their untimely demise, left little scars upon the earth, little evidence of their existence, apart from their sophisticated structures, as such a lost city is discovered. As predicted, modern technology will ultimately bring an end to this worldwide suppression of what should be free-flowing information regarding what once was seen as controversial, is now finally being seen as educational. And given that the newly announced Maya megapolis is the result of only the first phase of Pakunam's LiDAR initiative, there are likely to be many more revelations about the mysterious people who built this massive urban network, clearly an amazing discovery, one which could quite possibly be pre-Diluvian. We will keep you posted. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
We have, in the past, covered the astonishing mega-metropolis that has been unearthed using ground-penetrating radar beneath the nearly impenetrable rainforest that now engulfs the area. A super-civilization that not only supports our posit of there once being a number of lost civilizations that have flourished and often seemingly met an untimely demise here on our planet, but has been estimated to have been home to more than 10 million sites such as Tikal, once believed to be independent separate clusters of past impressive and as yet unexplained block buildings, through the use of ground-penetrating radar, have been proven beyond doubt to have once been part of the same super-settlement that spanned nearly the entire rainforest that the site is now home to. Yet we have also covered the incredible ancient stone and earthworks that can be found dotting many areas of the Amazonian rainforest that again are indicative of a past super-civilization. Yet conveniently, since the discovery of Guatemala's super city, funding for such penetrative studies elsewhere of said areas has dried up. The question is why? Why are we witnessing an active attempt to conceal these ruins from the world? We feel the evidence to suggest so is now beginning to mount. However, where mainstream academia won't step, many others are fortunately willing to pick up the slack, and this particular area of interest is of no exception. And as usual, the investigative researchers have turned up some astonishing characteristics of the Amazonian rainforest, features which are indicative of another super-settlement, possibly of a similar size to that of the ancient sites found within Guatemala. A group of scientists and researchers, after investigating the area, have put forward what has been pinned as the Amazonian Stonehenge. According to said researchers, they found evidence that a, quote, highly advanced ancient civilization once existed in Brazil, and although they have dated the ruins as having been built 500 years before the European colonization of the Americas began, we feel that the evidence to suggest that they were in reality far before this date will soon be realized, and that these people who once inhabited the Brazilian Amazon were possibly creating an impressive arrangement of immense towering granite blocks. As such, scientists today speculate that these massive stones were like so many other sites we have covered in the past, attributed as that of an ancient astronomical observatory. The structure consists of 27 blocks of granite, each up to 4 meters tall, standing upright in a circle measuring over 30 meters in diameter. In other words, possibly more than 1,000 years ago, an ancient civilization of native peoples were flourishing in the area. According to the New York Times, radiocarbon tests and site measurements during the winter solstice shed light on the ancient civilization's abilities that inhabited the Amazon. From this, new archaeologists have realized that the people who lived in the area developed a more advanced civilization than previously thought. Who built the Amazon Stonehenge? When did they build it? Is there a lost super-settlement hidden beneath the Amazonian rainforest as that of the Guatemala rainforest? We find the evidence to suggest such highly compelling. Over the last few years, more and more modern technologies have been utilized by individuals with access to them in an effort to not only expose the truth regarding the real history of man, but to discover the actual original size of these now lost civilizations' ancient ruins. Many sites have been laid to waste, not only by future settlements and tomb robbers, but by Mother Nature herself. Many of these most impressive sites having endured eons of erosion after being mysteriously abandoned, exposed to the elements. Yet there exists a number of these sites which have been somewhat protected from these forces. Although vegetation can have a catastrophic effect, uprooting the megalithic foundations of these sites, yet the actual footprint of these structures, and indeed the overall size of these once lost settlements, can still be seen through modern penetrative radar, with one of the most incredible found in the past few years. Undoubtedly, the mega-metropolis hidden beneath the dense forests of Guatemala. Although some clearings dotted within this landscape have been spared, somehow avoiding the suffocation of trees, it has been discovered that these sites, long argued as separate sites of habitation, were, in reality, once part of the same gigantic city, one of unimaginable size and complexity that was unquestionably home to not mere thousands, but was in fact a settlement that was home to more than 10 million. Yet although this reality is a compelling, supportive fact regarding our own beliefs, in regards to a far greater, now hidden, and widely ignored history of mankind, there are still features of this ancient site that is still attempted to be ignored, overlooked, and hopefully concealed from the majority of the world's population, ultimately avoiding them questioning the true reality of what they have been taught, and the possible truth regarding our history, which these sites could provide to all those who gaze upon them. Although these particular megalithic blocks somehow stood on their heads, have been explored and exposed for nearly 100 years, with many photographic expeditions having been made to these sites, it has now been proven that these megalithic blocks were not merely signposts made of stones in situ, but were clearly stones cut and once transported to their current location, and were actually strategically placed within one huge mega-settlement. This fact is attempted to be stifled, avoiding individuals questioning how, if indeed they were transported and cut by our more recent ancestors, the Mayans, how they actually accomplished this feat when they clearly required now lost techniques and technologies, as although they were far more primitive, technologically speaking, to the modern man, with us only accomplishing such abilities within the last century, all thanks to modern technology. This is clearly an identifying feature which exposes the true capabilities of the builders of this enormous city, and the fact that although academics would like to argue that it was merely a Mayan settlement, it possesses, like so many other astonishing sites on Earth, as yet unexplained enigmas, which not only fly in the face of this explanation for their origins, but actually suggest that they were merely re-inhabited by the Mayans, allowing archaeologists to point the finger at such a group due to their archaeological fingerprint having been left at the location. Sites which were in fact built by a now lost, yet once highly capable ancient civilization, that due to their immense age has now been lost to history, like so many of their ancient settlements, lost to the sands of time, with only the foundation of which now survive, thankfully exposed by modern technologies. Who were these ancient people? How, or indeed why, did they move and cut such enormous, enigmatic ancient megaliths within this enormous, now lost city? It is a place which we find highly compelling.